In a quiet village cradled by forests older than memory, there lived a man named Elias who had stopped praying, not out of anger, not even doubt, just silence, the kind that settles when life becomes too heavy for words. He was once a shepherd of hope, his hands calloused from work, but his eyes soft with belief. People came to him for comfort, for wisdom, for the strength they could not find in themselves. He gave it freely. He smiled often, until the sickness came. It took his wife first, then his daughter. And then, as if grief had hands, it took his voice. Elias still rose before dawn. He still fed the animals, still tended the garden behind his modest home. But the songs had left him, the prayers, the quiet moments of looking up at the morning sky and whispering, "Thank you." All of it disappeared into a cavern of aching stillness. The village understood. They spoke his name softly, like a fragile thing. Children would bring him flowers. Neighbors left food on his doorstep. But no one knew how to reach him, not even the priest, who visited often, but always left with a bowed head and tearful eyes. One evening, as the wind shifted and the forest grew still, Elias wandered farther than usual. His legs carried him to the edge of the woods, to a place he had not visited since his youth, an old stone chapel, long abandoned, its roof bowed by time, its windows like eyes that had cried themselves empty. He stepped inside. Dust danced in the dying light. Vines crept through the cracks. The altar was broken, the pews warped. But the silence, oh, the silence, felt different here. Not empty, not hollow, but waiting. Elias stood in the center of the chapel and closed his eyes. And something inside him broke. Not with sound, not with fury, but like ice melting after a long winter. The weight he had carried for so long, the guilt, the sorrow, the ache of unanswered prayers, it softened. He fell to his knees, not because he had words, but because he no longer needed them. And in that holy hush, he felt it. A presence, warm, steady, familiar. He did not see a figure, but he felt an embrace, not around his body, but within his very soul. A love that did not ask for explanation, a grace that did not demand apology. And then came the whisper. I never stopped listening. Tears came, hot and clean. He did not speak, but he remembered. He remembered how his daughter used to giggle when she ran through the fields. He remembered his wife's fingers brushing flour from her apron. He remembered what it meant to be held and to hold. And slowly, like a lantern being lit in a darkened room, something returned to him. His voice, not loud, not perfect, but honest, a single word, thank you. It was enough. From that day forward, Elias began to pray again, not always with words, sometimes with the way he planted seeds, sometimes in the way he paused to watch the sunrise, sometimes in the quiet act of sitting beside someone who had forgotten how to hope. The village noticed. His smile returned, not as it once was, but deeper now. Softer, like the earth after rain. People came to him again, not for answers, but to be near the stillness that had once swallowed him and now shone through him like stained glass in morning light. And every week he returned to the broken chapel. He brought flowers, swept the dust, repaired the benches. Others began to join him, one by one, until the chapel was no longer empty, until the silence was filled not with noise but with prayer. The kind that rises from scarred hearts and hopeful hands. And one day, when Elias had grown old, he sat beneath the chapel window, eyes closed, face to the sky. And as the sun broke through the clouds, those who stood near him swore they saw it, just for a moment, a figure of light standing beside him. Not imagined, not symbolic, real, radiant, a presence that bore the marks of pain, the peace of eternity, and the gentleness of a shepherd who had never left. And in that moment everyone understood. He had not been forgotten, and neither had they.